Okay, so tenant fees. The tenant fee ban now has been talked about for about 2.5 years. And 10 days ago, 11 days ago, it came into force on the 1st of June 2019, okay? Now, it's a total ban on tenant fees, any tenant fees charged by an agent or a landlord. So if you are a landlord that does charge your tenant for referencing or does charge your tenant for anything to do with the granting, the renewal, the continuation or the termination of a tenancy, you are no longer able to do that. Now, obviously for agents, it's a much bigger problem than landlords because a percentage of our income comes from tenant fees, and that has now gone. But there are landlords out there that do charge referencing fees, do take holding fees, do take fees from tenants. The penalties for landlords are exactly the same as the penalties for agents, and therefore this is something that we both need to consider. Okay, so it also includes third parties. Now, this is where it's really relevant. A lot of questions I've been asked about this is, okay, so can I ask my tenant to provide me with a reference? The answer is no. If it's going to cost that tenant any money whatsoever to provide you with a reference, you cannot ask them to do that. It cannot be a condition of you granting them a tenancy. So, for example, you might use a third-party referencing. I think National Landlords Association do a referencing option for landlords and will charge a fee for that. You cannot insist that a tenant pays to have that carried out. You have to allow the tenant to be able to either, one, provide you... You can, however, ask the tenant to provide you with information like bank statements, employment references, documents that are free that would still be able to for you to determine whether or not they would be good tenants. Credit checks are a bit grey because you can get free credit checks, but there's also credit checks that you have to pay for. So this is something that you need to consider when you are taking on a tenant and if you are charging them. The other alternative is you can suck up the cost, okay? It's because I wouldn't recommend that you now start letting to tenants and not having them referenced, because that will just open up a whole another can of worms. So you still need to reference your tenants, but you cannot now charge them any money to do so.